Well, it's always held a prominent position in SCOREGolf's top 100 course ranking. And when you think about it, there are not many courses in this country that can combine the classic layout of Mississauga with the rich, rich history. Let's take a closer look right now at the Mississauga Golf and Country Club. Located just west of Toronto, Mississauga Golf and Country Club is a beautiful 18-hole course situated along the banks of the Credit River. With a history that stretches back over 100 years and includes 6 Canadian Open championships, Mississauga is truly one of Canada's most famous golf clubs. There's so much to discuss when focusing on the historic course, from the incredibly manicured fairways and the elegant clubhouse that peers over the valley holes, to the world-class Canadian Open champions, whose name graced the wall behind the first tee box. Everywhere you look, there is something amazing to be seen at Mississauga Golf and Country Club. The club dates back to 1906, with the first 18-hole course laid out in 1909. Just a few years later, the clubhouse was constructed for $30,000, and that same clubhouse is still in full use today. In 1928, the great Stanley Thompson lengthened the course in order to prepare it for the 1931 Canadian Open. One of the club's earliest members was the legendary Ada Mackenzie, who was just a teenager when the course opened. It was at Mississauga where Mackenzie honed her skills that would lead her to become a member of the Canadian Golf Hall of Fame and go on to start the Ladies Golf Club of Toronto. Mississauga continued to prosper over the years, and in 1931 it hosted the Open Championship, the first of 6 that would see some of the world's best golfers visit the course. That year, Walter Hagen went on to win the title after playing a 36-hole playoff against Percy Allis, father of noted broadcaster Peter Allis. Just 7 years later, Slammin' Sammy Snead went on to win the 1938 Canadian Open. In 1942, Craig Wood won the title, giving Mississauga 3 champions who are all current members of the World Golf Hall of Fame. While Mississauga would go on to host 3 more national championships, perhaps the most memorable came in 1965, when Jack Nicklaus was looking to win the one title that would elude him throughout his career. However, the 537-yard 12th hole, known as the Big Chief, doomed Nicklaus's chances.
And that's a big bogey 6. Gene Littler has proven that he's still a great champion. Amongst the first to congratulate Gene is runner-up Jack Nicklaus.
That year, close to 60,000 spectators showed up to watch stars such as Arnold Palmer and Gary Player. And in 1974, the championship was played once more on the 18-hole course before becoming a fixture at Glen Abbey. And when all was said and done, Bobby Nichols was the last man standing. While the history is rich with tournaments and membership growth, it's the course that's truly remarkable. With over 49 different varieties of trees lining the fairways, playing this 18-hole course can be a relaxing and friendly walk, as long as you avoid those trees, of course.
Well, it's one of the old classics, old classic layouts, small greens, well bunkered, great definition of the fairways. It forces you to control your tee ball because, again, you need a lot of accuracy hitting into the greens, control the second shots.
The first hole is just steps away from the clubhouse and begins the descent into the Credit River Valley where the majority of the course lays. The par 3 third is defended by a handful of heavy bunkers and gives golfers a fair shot at birdie early in the round. Once in the valley, you really get to see hundreds of trees scattered throughout, as they are much a part of the personality of the course as the greens and fairways. The 5th is your first look at a par 5, and it stretches well over 500 yards, and the 7th hole is the first that crosses the Credit River. The 9th hole sits next to the river, and any shot right of the fairway would disappear into the rapids of the mild river. After a quick break at the halfway house comes the beautiful par 3 10th hole. Off in the distance you can see the clubhouse overlooking the entire valley floor. The 12th is the enigmatic Big Chief, the same hole that buried Jack Nicklaus's chances twice at the 65 and 74 Canadian Opens.
Well, back in the day, this hole wasn't playing 588 yards. Back in the day, it was a little bit shorter, and players could reach in 2 shots. Unfortunately, back then, he had hit his second shot into the water, and it turned out costing him the title when you look back at the final result.
A true 3-shot par 5 today is far and few between. So most long hitters are about 100 yards into the green, and it's amazing what can happen when you got a pitching wedge in your hand and a little bit of water in front of you.
The 13th careens back across the Credit River, making this drive a difficult one. Too hard and you may find yourself again in the water, while another 140 yards awaits you on the other side of that river. The 15th is perhaps Mississauga's most memorable, as it's the final valley hole. It requires a good tee shot onto a relatively tight fairway, setting up a short iron demanding precision into an elevated green.
I think as a short par 4, changing it up off the tee, it really puts a different club in your hand and it makes you think a little. The elevated shot into the green is always a challenge. Having a blind hole location presents unique challenges, so a little different.
You'll see me on this hole as I take on the great Paul Henderson a little later in the show. Holes 16, 17, and 18 are played adjacent to the clubhouse, and the 18th carries you home as you finish on a green neatly bunkered by a pair of traps that requires you to make a tough shot to play for a birdie. In addition to an incredible history and a beautiful course, Mississauga has a great practice facility with an enormous driving range, putting green, and chipping location to help improve your game. Like any other club, there are wonderful amenities here, like tennis courts for people who prefer to use rackets over golf clubs. And come winter, the Rockhounds get swept up by the curling rink, which boasts 6 sheets and a very modern-looking arena that was actually built back in the late 50s. While golf seems to be the foundation to one of Canada's oldest and most celebrated clubs, it's the culture of the membership that seems to keep this club together and looking ahead to the next 100 years of success.
Well, I think when you make that turn off Mississauga Road and come through our stone gates and onto the property, you realize you're somewhere special. And that feeling continues as you go into our Tudor-style clubhouse. Everything from the staff to the surroundings to the terrace room where you're looking out onto the beautiful vistas of the golf course. It really feels like a special place. But what really makes the club is the membership. And in my opinion, we have the friendliest, most sophisticated, great group of members here that any club could ask for. They treat each other with respect, they treat the staff with respect, and they are incredibly welcoming to new members coming in as well. With a club of this tradition and culture, our long-standing members are very welcoming to our new members coming in.
Mississauga Golf and Country Club is truly a jewel in Canada's golf landscape, one that will forever be known for the rich history of national championships played here and for its incredible valley holes surrounding the Credit River Valley.